Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads it must converse is the channel. Thanks for coming back by again. Today I'm going to give a take on one of the most amazing, unique, mind-expanding reading experiences that I've ever had. And I am very happy to say that I have hyped this book and done a lot of content on the channel with the author and the illustrator before it dropped, because this book delivers harder than you could ever expect, and there is no way to overhype it, and that is America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. This thing is unbelievable. I'm going to give a lot. I'm going to talk about this book a lot today, and I will let you know that there is no way that I could spoil this book for you. There is so much in this book that it is completely unspoilable, and the fact that it's mixed media lends itself to being able to be talked about completely, even without spoiling the reader experience, because the ways that the illustrations have been worked into this novel are masterful. It is so good where the placement of illustrations are and what they are and how they lend themselves to the narrative. It really adds a whole another dimension to the reading experience. So I can't spoil it. I don't have any worries about just saying what it is that I think that Phillip Freedenberg is doing with this narrative and what Jeff Walton has done with the illustrations. I might do another video where I read excerpts while showing in a slideshow format some of the illustrations and things like that. So let's get to it. When it comes down to it, this book starts off in a kind of way. If you read postmodernism, Pynchon, Gaddis, David Foster Wallace, big postmodern books, even Underworld, Don DeLillo was very kind of showed this kind of thing where the storytelling is in a fractured nature. You might feel like you're right at home. Okay, I see what's going on here. But very quickly, and I mean like chapter 3, you see that the construction and deconstruction of narrative has tuned you as a reader for an initiation into a type of storytelling that is new, unique, and so gripping that after page maybe 40 or 50, this book flies. I read this book in 2 weeks, and it is a 600-page book with illustrations. It's between 500 and 600 pages, right? And to read that in 2 weeks for me with life going on and everything is just completely unbelievable. But you are then set right off the bat with this book for a new type of narrative that doesn't have any frame of reference. I can't say what it is like. I can't say books that might give you a taste of what it is like. There is a lot of nested narratives going on. You'll get a narrative, or you'll get it'll just be going along, and you'll be in a certain place, and then somebody within the narrative that you're reading will tell a story, or there will be a narrative that starts and takes you somewhere else, and then maybe a narrative within that, these kind of nested narrative structures, and then you'll back out and be back in the first place and continue on. And the story has this kind of holographic principle in that way, where one chunk may show you what the whole looks like in a way. And it is Phillip had described it on one of our interviews as a fractal nature, and that is a good way of looking at it as well. What is the framing of the America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a Diagnostic? The entire book, the framing for this narrative of what Phillip does is basically control versus creative freedom. We are in a dystopian, modern, it was written and is about 2020 America. But a very dystopian, sci-fi, techno-horror version of what 2020 America could have been like if the powers that be actually had no limit to what they could enact on the population, and no tact whatsoever. There is a government organization called the Total Information Control Initiative, and they are bent on controlling all information, and they have put these kind of laws in place that are being enforced. There is a company that is in the employ of the government called Neuroform that has screen helmets, and basically a virtual reality life that is actually being implemented as essential for the population. And those that are fighting against this kind of complete control over their minds, over their thoughts and inner being, those people are looked at as dangerous outlaws, and they are being policed very, very strongly. There is a couple of groups that are kind of over and against these power structures. One of which is the Hive Mind Gazette, which is an underground information source that our guys have contact with. And there's also the various guerrilla, kind of grassroots groups that are trying their best to just live in a country like this. So it is very, very dark, Philip K. Dick style, just trippy, and very, very sad, when it comes down to it. With a lot of parallels to what goes on and what has gone on. There is a mythology, a kind of a historical basis that you're given in the first part as well, based on the founding of America, but framed within this narrative of control versus creative freedom. And that's where we meet one of our main guys called Gunter Albatross Plato. And he is a leader, for lack of a better word, but a forerunner of a mystic artist group, a very creative, communal, maybe, group of artists. And they are relegated to the fringes of society. And Gunter Albatross Plato himself wrote a book, and a very powerful book, and he actually starts in a tangible way in America what will become the Cult of the Cactus Boots. And then we'll go through. Okay, so our guys are, you'll see a self-referential kind of meta-narrative going on, because the main characters are Phillip Freedenberg and Jeff Walton, the artist and writer of the book. So off the bat, it's already kind of meta. It is self-referential, but you get really quickly that Phillip and Jeff are not the real life Phillip and Jeff. They are in a constructed world here, right? They get approached by a kind of a mythological being as well, called Slimy Barefoot. He is a kind of a wood god, kind of, I don't know, I think Pan or something like that, right? But just a powerful being that can move and comes up to their place of work. They are in in a horrible situation of living at work. The riots are in the streets. There's fighting all the time. Most people are already indoctrinated into this neuroform thought control where they're just basically living off dopamine downloads to the screen that is basically a helmet, and putting, that's their life. People don't talk. People don't interact. People are just basically wasting away and giving up on any kind of thought or freedom that they might have. So this pamphlet is delivered to Phil and Jeff, and they are shown something about the cult of the cactus boots. There is an idea of Phil to already write this book, and when he brings up the idea to write it, Jeff says, well, if you write it, I'll illustrate it. But this is a very high level offense in this country to write a book and to publish something. And they're already playing the midpoint. Their job is a printing company where they print materials, all kinds of materials. Of course, for the government, for the Total Information Control Initiative. That's the only work that can be done without it being illegal as far as printing the written word. But they also do covert printing and what is illegal activities behind the scenes, printing for the Hive Mind Gazette, printing their own kinds of things as well, right? They find a old radio that is in their attic, and this radio begins sending transmissions to the two of them from the publisher of the book, Rick Harsh. Rick Harsh is the chief editor of coronasamas.press, which is the press that the book is published out of. They start receiving transmissions from Rick, and there is this kind of thing where the book is starting to have an effect. People know about the book. Some people have the book. Some people's read the book. Phil has just had the idea for a book. He hasn't written anything of it yet, but it's out there somehow. And so we start seeing a kind of overarching holographic nature or fractal nature of the narrative in this kind of thing. He gets, basically prompted to go on this kind of quest. That's what it's going to take to write the book, to get the book to the publisher, and then to publish this book and have it distributed. For that to happen in this kind of horrifying dystopian America is a very tall order. So they're off and they're going through it. Another level of this is that Phillip Freedenberg, although having the idea to write this book, actually always wanted to be a writer and felt that he had a book in him and actually started writing a book before. But this book, America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, is not written by him just himself. He has the macroscopic vibrational orgon transmutation universal life force energy fiction generator. That is an alien technology that was sent to him by his parents who worked on SETI and other government agencies, perhaps, that were researching and looking for life in the universe, and they found it. And they are instantly shut up and taken away from society, not able to communicate what they found. They are now, a very highly classified type of individual, right? Both of them. Philip's parents in this book. It comes to light, he's been, basically abandoned or orphaned, but lived with grew up with other family members, aunt and uncle, things like that. And when he's an adult, he got this piece of technology that they received and built, and it is a fiction generator. It writes through the person being used as a conduit, their nervous system being used as a conduit to bring a book, a fiction book, into existence. So that is the way that this book is being written. So we already have some kind of movement from where the origin of from where this book comes from to actually our author, and also, of course, the characters in the book, and how this kind of thing plays out. There is a trip into the mind of an author. This book takes place as at the start, of course, with them waiting to receive a copy of The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas in the mail from Rick Harsh and the press Corona Samizdat. That's when Phillip Freedenberg has the idea to write this book. And so they're writing it, or he has the idea, and they're waiting for this book. In the book, Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas gets delivered. And so this whole thing is wrapped up between what has actually happened between September of 2020 and what is the fiction of what has happened from September of 2020 on. And it's pretty wild. There is complete, like I said, 2020 on steroids. Everybody is basically isolated to an insane degree, and that's what these controllers, the control structure, wants everybody to be isolated and like an island unto themselves, right? Well, the opposite of that is what the cult of the cactus boots want, which is pure creativity and all things common for all mankind. And that is what is termed in the book the unified field. The unified field is where we go together when we read the Cult of the Cactus Boots and any narrative when it comes down to it, any story, right? The book is like a multifaceted jewel. That's the way I saw it, that this book is like a jewel that encompasses all creativity and even all consciousness itself. And you can see this thing by the book. You see creativity and consciousness itself from all angles, and you can examine it, and it's being shown to you, and it's blowing apart your preconceived ideas, and it's expanding ideas of fiction, ideas of narrative, ideas of creativity, and ultimately ideas of consciousness itself. But it is done, it's not that the book talks about that stuff. This stuff that I'm saying it does is done through plot, is done through actions that are happening, and it's so immensely interesting and compelling. That's why you can read it in 2 weeks, a 600-page book. It's like it flows so well, and you just can't wait to get to the next. So to talk about some of the meta part of it a little bit, time kind of breaks down completely. I think you've seen a little taste of that by what I've talked about. But look at it like this. It reminded me of Stephen King's On Writing, because Stephen King's On Writing says, one of the headings is, what is writing? And Stephen King says, well, it's telepathy, of course. He's sitting there writing this book at a certain date in his home in Maine. And you are reading this book at a certain date, months, years later, maybe across the world, maybe down the street, wherever you are. But you're getting that communication right there when you open the book. So a book is kind of a portable magic. And this, the America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots is aware that it is that. When you read something and the characters go, do this thing for hours, or do this thing and a day or two passes. Well, it is also aware, the text is aware that for a reader, only a moment has passed since something was said, or only a few minutes have passed since something else was said before in the text. The book is being written while it's going on. The book is being written, and the book is changing readers. How is it happening? Well, you're holding the book and you're experiencing it as it goes. The book is, you're reading about the inception and how this book is written, but you have the book, and it is, that it's going to fulfillment in that kind of way. The Cult of the Cactus Boots has affected the reality by becoming and being here. It has affected the reality, the past, it retroactively, maybe, and the future. It is a huge fractal system that is working, and once it's out, it's everywhere. And why is because it's really calling out that creativity itself, the creative side of being human, and what we love books for. What creativity is the ground of being. That creativity, having ideas, having thoughts, creating stories, that is a ground of being human. And I think all readers would agree with that, right? This is why we love books. And people that aren't readers would agree with that too. Everybody's constantly telling themselves stories. And even those that don't really aren't that self-aware like that, well, they watch movies and veg out to stories or narratives, even on the news, just narratives that are being told to them and fed to them all the time. We would die without stories. Human beings would die without stories. And that is a main thing that is just running underneath this book. These assertions are not made are not made explicitly, but they are fundamental and running underneath this book. The point of view breaks down, and I'm going to try to do this kind of thing justice, because the point of view in this book gets somewhere amazing. Like I said, we have like a universal creative consciousness, which may or may not be an alien race, that is channeled through Phil, the character, and written down in the book. And then it is the characters of Phil and Jeff, when they enter into the mind, they actually fall into a portal at a point and fall into the mind of Rick Harsh. And they see the undifferentiated thought stuff and the synaptic firings in the brain, and come into contact with a construct, like a being that is there to maintain some kind of order, right? And how this scene plays out, just everything about it is so fun and compelling when you're in it. And then when you think of what did it do, is it's breaking you free of what things mean. All symbolic systems dissolve into fiction in this book. All symbols, of which, letters and words are symbols, just symbols for something else, right? The something else, we're giving it in our heads of ideas of what something is. It all breaks down into fiction. Phil and the characters, they break down completely when they enter into the word tunnels. The word tunnels is a vast underground structure that is like the foundation of the world, and it is made up of words and narratives and stories, all words, all narratives. And when they enter into that, the characters and the kind of plot, as far as what they're trying to do, they are just in these kind of flowing narrative structures. And and you yourself and you as a reader, that breaks down in a way that all that is left upon reading this thing and getting to where they're like in the word tunnels and going through these kind of narrative structures, that's all that's left is a communication, just a communication of words and a point of view reader relationship, a point of view in the book, which are these characters that are breaking down in front of you. But they are characters. Something is a point of view, however shadowy or shaky it might be. But you as a reader are there too. So there's a point of view reader relationship, and that's it. The book is giving substance. There's words on the page. There's things happening. The book is giving the substance, but the reader is giving the meaning. And that's not to say that there is no meaning unless the reader is giving it meaning. This book, what it is about, is the fact that we give meaning to stuff, to everything. That actually, without our minds and without our consciousness to do that, there is no meaning to words or anything like that. A meaning is imbued to words and stories. That is what we do. And this book, the subject matter and what this book is about, is a new way of doing that. How would we find a new way of doing that? What does a new way of doing that look like? If you don't know, this is the only thing that I've ever seen that really breaks that kind of thing down and does it through story, does it through narrative. It breaks everything down. It breaks down everything to construct anew every single moment. Something new every single moment of your life. One of the things that is said is that this is a possible world. This is a possible world. This is a possible world. These are possible worlds. These are possible worlds. And this book is more than a book. It is a possible world that knows that it's a possible world and relishes in the fact that it is a possible world. So I can't wait for many other people to read it and give me their take on it, because it is a blast, a complete blast. It will blast you off into the universe somewhere where the only thing that is there is yourself and the vast everything of what this is. And there is assertions in this of life being of utmost importance, of mind and the conscious mind being pretty much the only thing that is able to impart meaning. That's what we do. That's what it does, is it constructs meaning out of random or just all kinds of stuff. There's no way to differentiate it. We just have things out there. There are ideas, and we impart meaning on things. So here's to the new paradigm, a meta paradigm of constructing meaning out of your life. And I hope everybody get with it. It was an amazingly fun ride. I will be reading it again. Catch you on the next one, BookTube. Bye bye.